introduce you, Charlene, or say what I'm going to say?
Sure.
Okay, all right, we are live. Hello.
Hello, everybody. This is the economic analysis team. It's a subgroup of the justice and memory team. So today, the chairperson, which is Charlene Marsh, is going to be discussing. We are going to be discussing what we are going to present back to the justice and memory team about the money that we think should be going toward the History Center. So with that, I'm going to give it over to our chairperson of the subgroup, Charlene Marsh.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm assuming that this meeting is a little bit more or a little bit less formal than our.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So I guess it's just a discussion. I know that I sent you a message, Miss Hattie, asking if everyone in this subgroup had, I guess, all of the budget scenarios, and you had mentioned that Mr. Bobby wanted to talk more about the details. So I guess just curious about where you would like to start. I also went back and did some more research. Looked through the notes from previous meetings or previous discussions that we had. Also looked at ARPA funding versus what the cost of building RFP process would look like regarding the Black History Center. So do you want to start with the Black History Center?
Yes, because we had said that was the, we can start with that one. We have some outlines of what it would cost to operate this. And we got that basic from Andrew Salinas. So we are not asking for any funds for the operation of this center, History Center. What we're going to ask for is the 1.25 build out for the cost of building if we are approved to be a part of that on the first floor. That I know we have to do an RFP and there has to be approval. But for the build out, that's what we're asking for this money for. And Andrew, and that's just a one-time money for this particular build out for the History Center. So that's what we're asking for the build out. Now, for the rest of the talk is going to be surrounded around the operations, and Andrew Salinas gave us a 5 plan.
Oh, did she go on mute?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, okay.
I should wait.
I guess my question when she comes back would be in terms of what defines build out, if we have that.
Written, yeah.
Yeah, are we talking about, because I think that it's just a shell of a building. So
the build out basically is what we want it to look like on the inside. It's just a shell of a building. And we have got some volunteers who will be giving us a plan for the build out. But yes, it's just a shell of a building. And when I say build out, how do we want it to look in operations to get it in operational?
So Miss Hattie, I don't know if you have the spreadsheet up that has what the configuration for the 1.5 million without annual county support?
Yes.
Okay, because I'm looking at that right now, and I know that toward the bottom of the spreadsheet there are a couple of columns. One says startup costs, then there's equipment and renovation, then there's endowment, and then there's miscellaneous startup costs, which include consultants, equipment cost overruns, technology costs, etc. Is that what you're referring to when you mention like the build out, or is this something else?
It's when, and I have talked to Andrew today, and we're going to get back together. But he knows that what I was talking about is the build out will not be included in the operations, and he knows that because we got to this history center's got to be self-sufficient. It's got to take care of all its expenses. We're not going to be asking anything from the Clarke County for the operations. The only thing we're asking for is the money, the part of the money that the 2.5 million to go to this. And then we had talked about, we're going to also make a recommendation for the other half to go to affordable housing.
But 1.5 million for
1.25, yeah, for the cost to bill out, yeah.
So, but the total's 2.5, correct? For, okay, so then that's 1 million towards affordable housing and 1.5 for the cost to build out?
I think we're going to do it like half of the 2.5 million.
Okay.
And the other half will go to towards affordable housing, and we are going to make a recommendation on what that should look like. But today we're just focusing on the Costa. I mean, not the Costa, the History Center.
Okay.
So, but like I said, the History Center will be it would be just a one-time payment for that. And that's the one with the no county support. That's what you was asking, Charlene, correct?
So, I mean, I was really asking about what the 1.5 would actually be covering. Like, I understand that it's the build out, but what does the build out entail? That's what I'm asking. And so on the spreadsheet, there is mention, like at the bottom, there's mention of equipment and renovation, and that being $500,000, and then endowment being $500,000. And then there's a category of miscellaneous startup costs, which include the consultants, technology costs, et cetera, with $250,000. So that's what I'm trying to get and I think that's what Sayla might be asking as well. Is like, what does build out entail?
Right.
Okay. The build out itself is separate from what he has listed on there on the plan. The build out is what it will look like, the lights, the encasing, and all of that throughout the whole floor, shelving, casing, whatever we can obtain with that build out. That's what we would use for that money. All of that would goes to that, because this is going to be interactive. It just won't be shelving. It's going to have to be a lot of computers and things like that. It's going to be where you can push a button and things will happen. So that's what the whole bill out, when I say as much as we can get with that money, then that's what we're going to do with the build out. Now, we will have a plan together once we can get in there, and they can, the company that is going to measure and put a whole scope of what that's going to look like. Once we can get in there, and they can get in there and measure everything. But right now we're not able to get in there, and I can't show you that because we're not able to get in there.
So I do have a somewhat update on that. I don't know that you'll be able to get in there before the application is live for the RFP. My understanding is that when the application goes out, that all of the specs and the measurements of the floors will be included in the RFP process and a part of that application for folks to put forward their proposal based off of what the measurements are in there. And I don't know when that will be, but I think it's going to be a couple of months before that RFP goes out.
Okay.
That's the most recent information that I have.
Okay, because I was thinking, I was told that we would be able, they would be able to get in there and measure so they can put a more accurate plan together. But if they can't do that, we just have to work off the plan.
Yeah, that's not my understanding, but I don't know if possibly during the RFP process, if there's an opportunity for anyone who's put forth like is going forward for the proposal and application, if they'll have like a site visit during that time. But as I understand it, they're not yet even consolidated on getting that RFP together for the lease what's it called? I don't know, the lease of the space. And I think it's going to be a couple of months because I think the Taylor Grady house is happening before that.
Okay, well, it would be very helpful if we could include somewhat of an exactness of the RFP if they could go in for the individuals who or companies or whoever are applying, so we can be more accurate in how we're going to use that space. Because it's hard to look at the sketch of it and say, the walls and all that to get a good complete understanding of how it could be used without measuring it. But if we'll do what we can do, or what we have to do to be competitive in our RFP.
Yeah, if I have whenever I get more information on when that's going to go out, I will certainly let the team know. That was, I think, per last week from when I had asked after our conversation, Ms. Hattie, was what I had understood is that it may be a couple of months still.
Okay, well, whatever we can, and that's why I'm saying it. I know you're asking, Charlene, but it's hard to give you all of that information when we don't know what it is, what it's going to look like. But it's going to be very interactive. It's going to be a lot of computers, animation, hopefully, and with the layout of it. So that's what the 1.5 was. The 1.25 would look like.
So the reason why I'm asking that is because, like, since this would be a recommendation that the subgroup is making to the Athens Justice and Memory Project team, I am 99% certain that there will be questions about like a breakdown of what $1.25 million, like if there are like little buckets per se that money would be going to. And I think that's why I'm thinking like the purpose of, or at least one good purpose of this meeting that we're having right now would be to try to like narrow that down, especially when it comes to policymaking and specifically allocation of funding. There will be questions about like specifics, like if, and I understand that like the team still needs to be able to go in and look at things, but there also I think needs to be some type of fleshing out of things like when the request is made itself. Otherwise, I think it could prevent us from even getting to that point where you're able to do all of that extra, if that's making sense.
Yes, but we need to go ahead and move on this because of the timeline that we are up against. And if we can break down the buckets with, say, put things in buckets and say computers.
Yeah, I'm not proposing delay of anything. I'm saying like in this discussion, if there's a way for us to break it down, so when we go have the meeting on the 20th, then we'll be able to be like, okay, 20% of this is going to this, and 50% is going to this.
Well, let's go ahead.
I agree with you, Charlene.
Let's go ahead and do that now then.
Okay.
The best that we possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with Charlene, because it is going, as I understand it, we're likely going to need to take all of this to the full AJMP. And if, as Charlene said, like have as much detailed out as possible, because if that's the formal recommendation coming from AJMP, then that's going to need to go in front of mayor and commission along with the economic analysis of losses presentation, because I think that likely what needs to happen first is mayor and commission is going to have to accept that report just as the AJMP accepted that report, and then behind that comes the formal recommendations. that the AJMP is putting forward once they, as a full body, accept that report. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I just think, maybe we can do it all together. We can do the economic analysis with the recommendation from the Justice and Memory team, acceptance of this, and then give it to them. Because if we can't get in there, we cannot give them an outline of what it's going to look like. But I agree, Charlene, I'm glad you mentioned that. Let's go ahead and do a breakdown.
So I guess one more thing to that, because it's a work session that these recommendations would be shared at, correct?
Well,
I think so, yes.
yeah, I think it's going to be in a work session, the best that we can do. So we need to work on that, because I don't want that we be too slow on the getting this, and then the allocation money has been put somewhere else. So let's go ahead and do what we can do now.
But work sessions, do they, Sayla, do they like vote on things at work sessions, or is it just presentations?
It's just presentations, but it would, similar to how we did the Walk of Recognition design concept, it would be a presentation of the report and the recommendation behind the report that would then go to an agenda item on agenda setting that then would get moved to, I think, approve the report would probably be first, and then I don't know if in the same agenda item it would be the formal recommendation or not, but I think the first step is that the mayor and commission has to approve that economic analysis of losses report first, the same way the Athens Justice and Memory Project did, before moving forward. They have to say, yes, we agree that this is we are a part of this process, and we want this body to make a formal recommendation on how to utilize those dollars. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So
and I don't know if those two things happen in the same time frame, or if one has to happen first and then the other one comes behind it. But I think having as much tailored and detailed out, ready to go as possible is always going to be best practice.
Okay. So I mean, regardless of what comes first, like, we would still be able to be working on all of this, like, at the same time. My next question is, what needs to be done in order to get, I guess, the report itself on the agenda for acceptance or approval by the commission?
I think we would probably need to have that be formally discussed with the full body. And I would probably ask for some oversight from the manager's office in that formal meeting to ensure that the way I understand it is correct in our process. And then I, as staff, would then get that agenda item written for excuse me, for the work session. And likely, I know the August work session is totally full. It would probably be the September work session.
Hopefully we will have both the recommendation for the history and the for the housing by September, so they can both go together with the report of an economic analysis report. Okay.
So I think that's definitely something that I want to make sure that we share in the meeting on the 20th, that there are plans to, I guess, at the August meeting, we would probably ask the group to, I guess, vote on like moving the report forward to the commission, since it's too late to do that for this upcoming meeting.
I don't think it's too late to do it in the Athens Justice and Memory. And then once that's a formal recommendation from the full body, then, because I don't have in front of me the dates, but then I would have to look and see what dates and deadlines that I have internally. So probably doing that in our next meeting is best, so that we can aim for the September work session.
I agree. And that's why I wanted to go ahead and have this meeting today, so we can make a recommendation to the Justice and Memory team.
But I know that since the cost of building is not yet up for for anyone's,
Yes.
like, no one's able to apply for that yet. So I think that recommendation can be made from the Athens Justice and Memory for this economic analysis of losses. It would still, you know, this Ms. Hattie, have to go through that process. And I don't think that we would get a different, I don't know how that looks in terms of priority, so to speak.
Well, we're not going to, we're just going to talk about the Costa, but since we haven't done an RFP, we can talk about, and that's it. Does that make sense? But we are going to go ahead and do everything as if there's a possibility we would get. Okay.
Oh, sure.
That's what I'm trying to say.
You're absolutely put together that. And I think as much as that can go through in the detail of what that money is going to use for a build out and what that looks like is absolutely on track.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go ahead and do that, Charlene, so we can talk about that piece.
Okay. Can I share my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Let's see if it gives you. Does it give you ability to do that?
It's doing something with my laptop settings. I think I need to grant access to my screen. See if I can do that.
On mine, it says anyone can share.
Yeah, it's my laptop itself. It's not like about me as a user. I think I just don't have like.
I'm glad one of you all are doing that, because I would have all kind of problems.
I need to figure out how to do this.
Do you want to email it to me really quickly and see if
I was going to say that if you want to email to Sayla, because I can't help you.
1 second. Okay, I think now let me try again. Great. Okay, yeah, I'm just gonna send it to you, Sayla. It's my laptop with my privacy settings. That's what the issue is. So, and it wants me to like leave the app in order to save those, which I'm not gonna do. All right, I just sent it to you, Sayla, and if you can look at the which one is that? The 1.5 without annual county support.
Okay, I haven't received it yet, but oh, there we go.
Do you have it now?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you see that?
Now I can, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so if you could scroll to the bottom of the page. Okay, yeah, so over here. So like on the bottom left, there's like a little section that says startup costs. And so these are the numbers that I was asking about, Miss Hattie.
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
it sounded like this is what you were talking about when it came to build out, like I guess like the physical space itself.
Yes. I talked to Andrew today, and he's going to revise this, because I told him that would be used for, he's going to revise it on, I think on Monday, and send it back out, because I told him that we would use the money for the the 1.25 for build out. But this has a lot of technology in it and things like that. But also, we will have to build it out with a lot of other equipment as well.
And is that what's under the column that says equipment and renovation 500,000? Because these don't look like operational costs. Like these look like build out costs.
Right. Yeah. So he's going to make some revisions and resend that out. But we can use, if you want to put those in the buckets that we were talking about,
yeah,
the ones that we get on Monday, we can look at that before we present it to the Justice and Memory team. So you want to use these as buckets?
Yeah, or like as a basis, like it looks as if there has been some work like thinking about it already, and I don't think there's any like, especially as someone who hasn't done something like this before, I don't see there being a need for me to try to create something new.
No, let's don't. Well, he has worked in a museum before.
Okay.
And this is where he got his data from. He had a researcher to pull this data.
Mm-hmm.
But since I talked to him about the bill out, I think we can use these as buckets because he's going to resend us this on Monday or Tuesday.
It looks like these numbers add up to 1.3 million about.
And I said 1.25.
1.25, yeah. But also, like, I mean, there's a category for cash reserves and there's a category for endowment. So I don't know. Those don't sound like operational cost, or they do sound like operational costs to me.
Okay, we can take the endowment out and then, well, we can go ahead and bill what we have until Monday, and then maybe you and I and Andrew can talk about it on Monday. When he's out of town today,
Mm-hmm.
but he won't be back until Monday.
Okay.
So let's use these as buckets in case we have questions on a Wednesday.
But I know earlier, Ms. Hattie, you said when we were talking about like equipment and renovations, you were talking about shelving and lighting. And so are those, like, do we have, in terms of the buckets, like one is equipment and renovation, and underneath that we have detailed and like a cost, like of what we estimate, I guess, for those items?
But I guess that's what we should probably be talking about now.
Okay. Well, we're going to have, like shelving. We're going to have covering, the plexiglass covering. So some things that people cannot touch. I know we're going to have all of that.
So like shelving and display.
Yes.
I guess furnishings. I would.
Yes. We're going to have, like, and tables and just mannequins and things like that. We're going to have all those mannequins, tables. Some of the displays will probably be interactive, and then you have to have a sound system, and you're going to have areas where you can have a small lecture. So you're going to have that, and you're going to have computers. So if we wanted a little area where people can do research, because we have archived data, or they can access data from other areas. So those are the kind of things that is going to have to be part of the build out.
So when you say tables and chairs, what purpose would those tables and chairs be? Because I understand like chairs would be needed for, like, I guess, a lecture room.
Right.
When you say tables, is it like
a podium? I would say.
Okay.
Instead of a table, maybe a podium. a couple of podiums. Y'all have to excuse my, when I be thinking sometimes I'll say things that I know, but it should be a podium and chairs.
Chairs, computers, podium, sound system, shelving, and display.
And mannequins and things like that.
Yeah, I'm adding mannequins to the like shelving and display furnishings category.
Mm-hmm.
Just because like if that's what is being used to display like some type of artifacts or materials.
And during the period of time, so a lot of these things will be swapped out. It won't stay the same. You know, during the years, it will become another display and another one, depending upon what the focus is for that particular quarter or month. So you have all of that change out. So
has there been like any sort of like rendering of like a design of what this layout looks like? I guess I'm trying to, I don't know anything about starting a museum, but I'm just curious if it really is a shell. Like, does flooring have to be put in? Like, what kind of
flooring has to be put in.
Yeah.
Yes.
So are we talking about that like very bare bones level of a build out, or because mannequins and computers and sounds like aspects and components that would go into it, but I don't know necessarily for like an initial build out if we would be talking about like furnishing lecture rooms rather than looking at like
that will have to be
space itself.
It has to be all of that, Saleh. It has to be flooring. It has to be, like I say, a build out, coverings of walls, plexiglass, paint, all doors,
like
all of
the
that.
construction part.
Yeah. That's what I was talking about when I was saying build out. It's got to be all of that. Cabinets, if there are going to be any, all of that.
And I know you said that Andrew Salinas has experience working in museums. Has he been able to provide like cost analysis on just like these types of things? I'm just wondering who might we be able to bring in to give a better picture of what we're really looking at in terms of a build out for just a shell of a building. Like, is that an engineer? Is that a construction person? Or is that a museum curator?
I have a whole team who wants to get in there to give us that. But
so will that be a part of Andrew Salinas's presentation next week?
Excuse me?
Is that a part of Andrew Salinas's presentation next week? Okay, no.
So I think that Miss Hattie's understanding is that the team, like, they can't give detail on any of this type of information or these plans without being able to get into the physical space itself.
Yes.
But I think when it comes to making decisions on allocation of funds, at least from my experience working in local government, that's not really like enough of a reason to not bring some type of detail, even if it's just a vision that it may not be like neatly fit into the physical space because you don't have those details yet, but there has to be some sort of detailed vision, even if they haven't been able to see the space. And that is the type of information that I think we'll have to share with the group as well as share with the Athens-Clarke County Commission. So what I'm trying to figure out is like if there is a way for the group that you're working with who wants to go into the space, like are there some renderings that they can put together if they just have like an ideal, like, okay, this is I don't even know how square footage and all of that even works, but like say we're working.
Well, we got the square footage. Okay.
Okay.
The square footage is 5,000.
Okay.
So of the bottom floor?
Yes.
Okay.
We got the square footage. And I have given them that. We got the drawing. We got the drawing of the space.
Oh.
And I have given them that. We can put that there, Charlene, and we can tell them what the square footage is and we can talk about the build out. But we got that. I can send you all a copy of that.
Yeah, I wasn't aware that all of that was like, yeah, I didn't know that any of that existed. So
Yeah, I got the square footage and I got the layout. I've sent it off. And we were just waiting to get in. We thought was going to get in, but with that, I can send it to you, and you can make it that part of the display presentation.
mhm.
Okay, so we do have the floor plan, so to speak, in a rendered drawing.
Yep.
Okay. And has the group, I guess this is where I think the group would probably, yeah, want to, again, similarly to how I think we've crafted the design concept for Walk of Recognition, start pulling together like desired layouts.
Yeah, that's what they want
I
to
don't know
do.
how it
To
works. I've
see
never.
the play. It's hard to have a design layout when you can't even see get into the place or get in there, take pictures or look at it.
Yeah.
You asking. I'm asking them to do too much if they haven't even got in there to see the place. So the drawing, the square footage, we have all of that. We spent many months on the walk of the mosaic and talking about the walk of recognition, but it was visible through drawings and through seeing it. But it's hard for a team to come in now and say, okay, this is what it's going to look like when they cannot even get in there and look at it. It's like buying a house and you can't see it on the inside.
I
You're
don't.
saying what you
I,
look at.
I mean, I'm not an
I understand
architect,
it.
or I guess for me, I'm just having trouble like understanding why it would be so difficult for them just to put like basically like a blank vision essentially. Like, because the thing is, it even though that's what they're presenting as like an initial concept, that doesn't have to mean that it is the concept that the city or that the county government decides to go with. It's just some type of vision of what it could look like. As if I mean, say you just had like a 5,000 square foot room, like just the walls were equal on all sides, and like what would you do with that? I guess that's what I'm trying to like is I don't is it like a timing issue? Is it like a money issue that they can't do that? Or
They are doing this voluntarily, okay? And I could ask again, but this is what I was told. They need to come in and look at it before they can just spend that kind of time drawing out. But I'm sure we could pay somebody to do it.
that's I'm just trying to figure that out, because like if there is no way for them to get in because whatever like county regulations or whatever policies there are in place, like then where would we go from there? Like would
Well,
we be able to
I
go
think
anywhere?
we, I think we can they can come down and look. From what I understood, there was a possibility they could look, but that's not what we are trying to do today, right? We're just trying to figure out where the money is going to go. We cannot have this by Wednesday, and we can't keep delaying this in a way where we got to get something so each team can look at it, because it may not even look like that. I'm not pushing back. I'm just saying that we got to be able to move forward. We've got go ahead.
My question is similar in line with Charlene's. Like, I guess if we're really just talking about construction build out and we do have a basic rendering of a floor plan and the square footage, like, would we be able to just kind of say, okay, this is the kind of flooring and this is the type of shelving that we're looking at, and this is
Oh,
where
okay.
walls would exist, and this is where, I guess if we are at, like, to Charlene's point, if we're looking at just an empty 5,000 square foot shell. In terms of, I feel like that if it's just a build out that we're making a recommendation for.
I don't know. I
Yeah.
can't tell you that we can get that. I can ask.
Okay.
So the reason I keep going back to that is because I think like when we start talking about the flooring and the paint and such, and then it goes back to the fact that they haven't been able to see the space. So like I'm just trying to figure out how are we even how can we make a recommendation, or like not saying that we can't make one on the 20th, but like what information that will be substantial and like valuable to the group can we present to them on the 20th?
I think we can tell them that the build out will involve painting, flooring, cabinets. I think we can go back cabinets. It will building up to a certain level where people can see. I mean, stations, electronic devices. It will separated spaces depending on period of time for displays. Separated. We can say they're going to be separated every 3 feet. Because when you go in a museum, there's separation every so many feet from one period to another period. And sometimes you have buildups, and sometimes you have stands, and sometimes you don't. But we have that basic information. I have been to 5 museums in the last 5 months just to make sure that I was centered on what to expect, even though I didn't like all of them. But the ones that had the most impressive ones were the ones that were you could walk to one station and it was focused on this, and then you walk so many feet and you had another section that was focused on something entirely different, and you could mash the buttons and it would give you the whole playback. So the build out would be something similar to that. Focus areas. But what it will look like, it would be hard to say that with the people who's coming down here and to talk to do that. But they wanted a date where they could just come down and see it, and they could give us an idea of what it's going to look like but they got to bring all these other people with them. It's not going to be 1 or 2 people. From what I understand, it's going to be about 6 or 8 people coming, because everybody have their specialty.
Is this a consultant?
Yeah, these people, they are with the Preservation Center. They do this work.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. That's great.
And they're not going to charge to do it. But they're committed to do this.
Well, maybe, I mean, for the purpose of the next Athens Justice and Memory Project meeting, I mean, if we're saying 1.25 of the economic analysis of losses dollars are going towards the build out of the cost of building, and then the other 1.25 is going towards affordable housing, we still know we have our work to do on both sides to kind of come down to the nitty gritty of details. Right. So I think some of these things that we've highlighted in terms of like what we mean or what the group means when you say build out, it's construction, it's flooring, it's painting, it's, giving them an idea, but I guess at this juncture, maybe it's not necessarily like we don't need to know how many gallons of paint. We just need to have maybe an estimate of what we would be looking at for a cost of those items. And then I think, but to Charlene's point, you're right. Like when questions are answered, when we get in front of mayor and commission,
I think we
we'll definitely have to have things more buttoned up.
We would have to have more things in detail.
But we have time.
Yeah.
For that process.
But for that process.
Yeah.
And I would get back with them and the preservation and ask them to give me more of that.
Okay. Yeah, that would be
great.
great.
But this right here is important for get through with the cost and money, so we want to make sure that it's still there when we make a recommendation and what we're going to use it for.
The formality in our next meeting would be to like essentially have the group approve that these are the two buckets that
yes.
the money is the recommendation for the allocation of funds, right? And
right.
ensure that everyone on the group is in line with that and open up the floor for discussion of questions that they're likely going to have as well about what that means. And then also formally, we've already formally accepted the report, but recognizing that that report will then have to go into a work session with these formal recommendations kind of tied into it, either with or after.
True. That's all I'm saying, that we have got to move forward. Now, affordable housing, we had decided, we were talking about help with a down payment assistance, or for the elderly, people who have aged in place, have their houses, maybe get a grant for repairs. Those are the only two things we had talked about. Now, we probably have to partner with some company to do that, but that's where we were going. That's what we had talked about. Either, and maybe we can do both, down payment for housing and for grants for home improvements or repairs for the elderly who cannot afford a door or a roof.
And so with the affordable housing, I know we talked extensively about like ARPA funding, and I saw that the RFP process had begun for that through the Housing and Community Development Department. Is ARPA funding the only, I guess, avenue that we're looking at when it comes to the affordable housing recommendation?
All the recommendations that are coming to the Justice Amendment team is from the Justice Amendment team is going to be for that fund. That's it. It's not going to be taxpayers.
The reason why I ask is because, I was reading about like the RFP that has started, and there were like some goals that were associated with it on the website that I was concerned might be barriers to the Athens Justice and Memory Project team recommending things, because it may not fit neatly into those goals. So like one of the things, for example, was that like proposals for new housing or preservation of existing housing would be prioritized over like programs, which would, fall into like rental assistance or increasing paths to home ownership type programs, or even home repair programs. But the thing with that is that they're saying that, so if you are proposing some type of assistance program, for what I understand, it has to come with like actual development of housing. And then there's also a prioritization on shovel-ready projects. So I guess things that like have already been moving through the pipeline. You just need some extra funding or something for it. Talks about like aligning with the various plans, like the comprehensive plan, the strategic plan, et cetera. And then again, there's like emphasis on external resources. So I'm just curious about where the Athens Justice and Memory Project team can fit into that. Because even if we like partner with like a nonprofit or something, like they will also be kind of like limited by those stipulations as well.
I don't know where we're going to fall into that. I'm not equipped to understand all of that, but we're going to make recommendations for those too.
So yes, Charlene, you're correct. And that was, I know Ms. Hattie, we had talked about it, I think last week or the week before, that this our affordable housing has, I think, $11 million in ARPA, and this has been kind of more quickly put out from Mayor and Commission as like a more emergent need, because there are shovel-ready projects that just need the funding to actually build more housing inventory. So yes, this allocation of ARPA funding for affordable housing does have to be paired with some form of development. So it's less programmatic and more construction. And that's kind of where we were saying, Ms. Hattie, is trying to figure out where Athens Justice and Memory falls into that, because you're dead on, Charlene, with unless there's a nonprofit and a developer or a construction project that this recommendation is attached to, I don't know how this would go forward in an RFP from the Athens Justice and Memory for these dollars right now that are being allocated for ARPA. There's still additional funding, so I think, if I recall correctly, like maybe we're around I should know all of this, $7 million maybe for this, and maybe there's $3 million still left that I think likely could go to more programmatic services, since we're starting first with the shovel-ready development services. So I think there could be an opportunity down the line, but for this round of affordable housing funding, unless there's an attachment to new development, or a shovel-ready project, yeah, I'm having trouble identifying how we connect into that. And I welcome anyone's recommendations on what other funding we can attach affordable housing to, because I do think the idea of down payments or aging in place recommendations for this makes a lot of sense. I just don't know how what we attach it to if you don't want to use taxpayer dollars.
Because like there are tons of existing programs for these purposes that the committee like could recommend money go toward. So like I am 100% like in support of making a recommendation, because that is, what we're here for. That's the charge has been given. My questions were just because I just wanted to make sure that whatever recommendation was made, like it would actually mean something, as opposed to the commission just seeing it as like, oh, the group said we should do this. Like I wanted to make sure that we had like the highest possible chance of it actually becoming something, as opposed to it just being an empty recommendation. That's why I was asking those questions, just to clarify.
Well, I don't think it's going to be an empty recommendation, okay? Because as I talk to individuals on the commissioners, it's not going to be empty. And the Justice and Memory team has just got to find avenues to get to what we and the commissioners have got to find avenues what we are trying to get to. We can't always go with what's in place, but we have to be able to get to what we are about, and that's helping the community. And this is a way to help. Now, if we make that recommendation, and from what I understand, there is a need for both, then we need to make that recommendation, not understanding how it's going to get through, but we need to make it. And the commissioners, some of the commissioners are want these recommendations to be made.
Okay. I agree.
We're different.
I think Charlene's right, though, that if we have something tangible to attach it to that has teeth, then it's a more impactful recommendation. And I think that's the goal for this group as a whole. So we just have to find that.
The teams, I don't want y'all's time to be wasted. Like I would hate for y'all to be putting in time and effort, and then they're like, oh, actually, this is like the wrong type of project or the wrong type of recommendation for this, so it can't go anywhere.
I feel good about it.
Okay.
I feel good about where we're going. We have got to be able to look differently, and we can't always fall in line, because that's how it's always been done. We have got to find avenues to help people, and this will help the community. So we got to find an avenue to get there. Maybe I feel too good about this. I don't know. We just can't always. We need to look at inclusion and trying to figure out what's there and how to get there. I mean, it's not always laid out. So,
I mean,
but
I am with you 100%. I'm just
yeah.
trying, like, I feel like I have my public administrator hat on, and I'm just trying to figure out, like, okay, it's good that we have a recommendation, but I want to make sure that the people who actually like press go on things will actually be able to do that. That's yeah, like I want to make sure it happens, and I think that's what I'm hung up on. It's like I don't want anybody to come back and say y'all did it the wrong way or this or that. Like that's yeah.
Well, from what I understand and checking with some of the commissioners,
Mhm.
they think this is a good go.
So
If it wasn't, excuse me,
under this like round of funding or under the I guess the 3 million that Sayla mentioned.
under the 3 million, that's why I'm
Yeah.
trying to get us there. Trying to make a recommendation so that money won't be gone
Mhm.
by the time we make a recommendation. We need to move. So that's why I'm saying let's move.
Okay, we just gotta find something to attach it to that makes sense and that the full body agrees is the will of the group.
Mhm.
Well, um, I think that we'll be able to do that.
And so is that something that you wanted to discuss at the next subgroup meeting since two of our members are missing or
We got a majority.
okay.
Let's move.
So with this, 'cause I know that the last time we discussed, I guess, defining what the view in terms of the views of this group, what affordable housing looks like. So as you mentioned, those various avenues, like repairs and such. So are we making a decision on that right now as well? Or are we just saying that 1.25 million on whatever that's going to look like for affordable housing, that's what we're recommending to the group on Wednesday?
I think we can say that we can say affordable housing. We're going to do down payment assistance and repairs for the elderly. Uh, uh, however we want to put that, we can split that and say down payments and repairs for the elderly, grants for the elderly for repairs,
Hmm.
grants for the elderly for repair, then grants for down payment assistance. All of it is going to be grants. Those two ways. Now, how are we going to do that? I don't know what it's going to attach it to, but I have talked to commissioners who have agreed that that will be a good. Those two will be good recommendations for affordable housing and the recommendation for the History Center.
Okay. So essentially we would be leading in the next full meeting with the formal acceptance of the 1.25 for the Costa build out. And
Just
then
say the History Center bill out. Don't say the
History Center
cost.
build out, yes. And then 1.25 for affordable housing with designations of those dollars towards aging in place and repairs for seniors, and then down payment. Is the down payment for housing for anyone, or is that also, are we targeting?
It should be for anybody.
Okay. Okay.
But the agent in place, we really need to help them because they don't have the money. Seniors don't have the money for home repairs.
Yeah.
And then we can help the people who with grants for home down payments because they don't have it either. So
Well, and aging in place, I feel like also really ties into the charge of this group as in terms of like, if you assist in that repair, like you're not only hopefully, putting some barriers in place for gentrification of certain neighborhoods, you're also providing generational wealth to families because they then have a home that they can pass on to the next generation because it's in good standing. And
right.
so, yeah.
That ties dead
Mhm.
in with us. How are we going to attach it? I don't know, but we need to get off the ground and moving before all the money is gone, designated to something else. And the history, the center could be attached to education because that's what it is.
Yeah. I'm just wondering who I feel like I just saw I don't have to talk about this in the meeting, but I feel like I just saw some articles recently of some ARPA dollars that were used in other communities for like they were absolutely for low income senior housing, but I don't know if those were like repairs to a building or we're talking more singular repairs to like homes rather than like a building that's allocated for
Right.
services and okay.
Right. We're talking about homes.
Home ownership.
Home ownership.
Yes.
And that and leading to home ownership.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what Leonardtown was all about, home ownership and repairs. So we're back to where a basic
A full circle.
we're circle.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Charlene, to where we were. And then we are back at education with the History Center.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, those are our core values. That's why that's what we're all about is homeownership, repairs, education. We haven't strayed from that. So that's why we just need to keep centered on that. We need to help the community, and that's what we are doing, focusing on helping the community. And how we do all that, we're going to have to figure it out.
All right.
I'm going to shut my mouth in a few minutes, but, I just wanted to continue to push us to where we where people need the help.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well then maybe that's something our next kind of like area of research is what we can actually find in terms of if it's not the ARPA money locally right now, what other dollars are out there that can be utilized for these initiatives, because there's definitely got to be money out there for exactly all of these things.
Thank you, Sailor.
Well, I mean, I think it's we just have to find it.
We got that's where I am. I'm like, we got to find it somewhere. We got to detach it somewhere, and to help people in the community. So, are we good for presentation to Justice and Memory Team?
I think so.
I think so. Sailor?
Yeah, I think so. Charlene, are you planning to do like a formal like PowerPoint presentation that I need to have ready, or you're just going to kind of talk through all of this?
Well, Andrea Salinas is going to be there too. And then Charlene.
I mean, what do y'all suggest? Because I was just going to talk through these things because it's fairly simple.
Yes, that's fine.
That's what I thought. Yeah, I just wasn't sure because you had said a presentation, so I just wanted to be sure. Mm-hmm. And I guess is Andrew also just giving more of a like discussion, or is he presenting something like?
He's going to be presenting, but he's going to take questions and answers.
Okay.
Is he just?
But he'll send it to you. Excuse me.
Is he just presenting on like how he developed the budget?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it's important for the mayor commissioners to see that this is going to be self-sufficient. It's not dependent on county support. It's very important to that. So that's what he's presenting about.
Yeah, just make sure if he can send that to me so I can post it alongside the to the group.
Yes, we'll do that.
Okay, anything else?
Nope.
All right. Well, have a wonderful weekend.
You too. And I'll get with Bobby and you want me to get with Mike too? Catch him up on what we decided.
Yes.
Please. Okay, I'll call you, Charlene.
Okie doke.
Bye-bye.
Good evening.
Bye.
Feel better, Sailor.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Bye-bye.